The FBI shares video of an armed person at the front door in the case's biggest break so far as the search intensifies for Nancy Guthrie, a famed TV host's elderly mother. One of the most infamous convicted killers of recent times heads back to court. What you should know as Alex Murdaugh's attorneys take the appeal of his murder conviction to South Carolina's highest court. And the teenage stepbrother of a girl found dead on a cruise ship appears in federal court, but still unclear on any charges. The court of law is done for today, so let's call to order Court of Opinion. And welcome to Court of Opinion. I'm Kelly Craft, filling in tonight for Julia Janae. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. The search for Savannah Guthrie's missing mother, Nancy, tragically continues for a 10th day. The 84-year-old was last seen Saturday night and was reported missing Sunday after not showing up for church. Major developments were made today. However, law enforcement officials released surveillance photos of a potential subject in the investigation. Here's the latest on everything we know so far.
Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy.
Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you.
As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk.
We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward.
She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses.
She chooses joy day after day, despite having already passed through great trials of pain.
She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
There are also other possibilities such that they don't have her and they're trying to just take advantage of this situation with information that they have.
We have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
Another possibility is that she is no longer alive and that they are trying to cash in on the situation.
We live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated.
This may be a false flag and that they never had her.
We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her.
The light is missing from our lives.
It's difficult to hold a person for any length of time, especially if they're either a child or an elderly person with health issues.
She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer.
They really need to have some way to be able to get directly in contact with the kidnappers, to be able to exchange the money after they provide sign of life proof that she is still alive.
We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen.
What happens next will determine, but after Monday, if we don't hear from them at all, that's not a good sign. It either proves that it was always a hoax or that whoever sent that doesn't have her alive anymore and can't continue with negotiations.
Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home.
Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you.
We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. No matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation.
Let's go ahead and bring in our guest panel tonight. Criminal defense attorney Daryl Cohen, trial attorney and former president of the National Bar Association C.K. Hoffler, and former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney David Gelman. Thank you so much for being with us tonight as we talk about the major development in this case today. C.K., I want to start with you. When I saw that there was a break today, and then they were going to maybe release this footage, and then I saw it, I was really surprised at how much we actually got from those Nest cameras, because I was thinking there wasn't going to be much at all. What was your reaction when you started to see some of these images come out today?
Well, first I was praying beyond prayer that there would be something that would reveal her location, some development that would give us an indication that she's still alive. When I saw the evidence, I was disappointed, actually, because I was thinking and hoping and praying for more, because I think every day that goes by, there's a strong likelihood that she is in real danger and perhaps no longer alive. And so I was disappointed with the information, but I was happy that there was some information. That means there's some leads, there's some ray of hope. But I'm in constant prayer for the family, for the mother.
Absolutely. I will say, I was thinking nothing was going to come out, but when I saw those images, Daryl, I'll go to you, I thought, okay, maybe they can go with something here. What was your reaction?
Kelly, so much depends on what we don't know. We know what we know, but we know what we don't know. We don't know how much law enforcement is actually revealing to us. Mm-hmm. They're not telling us what they know. They can't. But my worry is that she's deceased. Yeah. I've thought that that was likely for a long time, and I hope and pray that I'm wrong. But I'm more worried about not just her, but the copycats out there. Yes. And the people that know enough to be a criminal, but not enough to be a good one, which is fortunate. I'm worried. I think there is one positive, only one that I can see at this point, and that is the public will realize that he or she is always subject to this sort of thing, and they will have their eyes open a little bit more. They'll be a little bit more aware, at least for a period of time.
Yeah. David, let's bring you in on this. What was your reaction when you saw the new things that were released today? These images, you saw someone walking up to the house using some shrubs from the garden, kind of covering up the camera there. What was your take when you saw this? How did you feel when you saw this release?
You know, this confirms really what I've been thinking most of the time. This is an inside job. I truly believe that. I don't think that this is just a random burglary, robbery, kidnapping, whatever they want to call it nowadays. I really think this is an inside job. This is an individual who knew exactly where he was going. You could tell he knew where the Ring camera was. You knew he knew where to go get the shrubs. It doesn't look like he was looking behind him or anything like that, so it doesn't look like there was any other individuals there. That also tells me that this is an inside job because they want to keep it as tight as possible. That's what their MO is usually. So again, I was a little disappointed because it didn't really give much, but the backpack there, it's a pretty distinctive backpack. The sweatshirt, also pretty distinctive, and it can show the weight, the height, the girth, if you will, of the individual. So maybe that will help. But look, at this point, I am not optimistic. I'd like to be, but I'm not optimistic that she is alive anymore. But I hope I'm wrong.
Let's go ahead and play a little bit of what Savannah had to say in another post that she made. Let's play that. I'll talk with you about it on the other side.
We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. No matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation.
Daryl, I'll start with you on this. We've heard from Savannah many times throughout this situation. She's making these public pleas for help, asking anyone if they see anything, if they know anything. Do you think they're helpful?
At worst, they're not helpful. At the very best, they'll be very helpful. People see things and they don't believe they have any relevance or any significance. One little piece of evidence, one little view, one little anything could open the door to what we need to find out. So yeah, I do think it's very helpful. And I think the fact that she loves her mom, the whole family loves her mom, and they've all been on air, on camera, saying over and over again, we think she's okay, please bring her back, we love her. very important. And again, it's not just this case. It's all the cases that may happen as a result of this case.
CK?
I mean, I think it's very helpful. It's always helpful when the audience, when people can see and can connect to the victims. I think it's extremely helpful because there could have been someone who actually saw her somewhere. There could be a little shred of evidence, and that little shred of evidence is the shred of hope that we all have. But it also underscores that there are other cases like this. And when you have a celebrity or someone who's a public figure who's pleading, who is really, really going through in real life this tragedy, she's connecting to people who could actually make a difference in the case. I think it's very helpful. I don't see any downside. Hopefully, something that they've said will cause this heinous crime, the abduction is a crime. Everything that's happened is a crime. Will cause it to come to an end, and their mother is still alive. That's the prayer. So I think there's no downside. If there are copycats out there who are trying to, make money and profit off of this situation, off of this tragedy, they will get their just desserts, because that is a tragedy on top of a tragedy. But I think simply that we feel for the families. Everybody feels for the family, and it really underscores this happens. It happens all too frequently, and sometimes celebrities or public figures can shed light on it and be encouraging for other missing persons. And their families.
David, talking about the inside job, if you're Savannah and you're going out there and you're making this plea, and then you're mentioning, and we've looked at everyone's comments online too, there's a lot of people that think it could be an inside job. And here you are, Savannah, and you're talking about this and making a plea. Well, maybe it's somebody they do know. We don't know.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Kelly. It may be somebody they know. And look, like Daryl just said before, there's a lot we do not know. Law enforcement is not going to give us their playbook. If they did, they'd be really stupid, right? So there's things that they know we don't know. And look, they already got DNA from multiple members of the family, members of the staff who have worked there before. So maybe that will be a big break. Who knows? But at this point, I agree. Savannah getting on TV multiple times and talking about this, it's only going to help the situation. I think it's only going to find, if not the mom, it's going to find this individual who did this, all right, in the end. If this wasn't Savannah Guthrie's mom, we would not be talking about this anymore. Let's be honest about it. But because it is Savannah Guthrie's mom, it's national news. It's on every news station you could possibly think of. They have the FBI in this, which normally probably wouldn't be happening to this point. So I think that this is going to help eventually. Just is it going to be enough? That's a real question.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. David, thank you so much. We're going to squeeze in a break, but coming up, we're going to turn to New Jersey for the Mansion murders trial for Paul Canero. What was the best evidence presented in court today? We break it down next.
Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
17-year-old accused of murdering her mother and her stepfather.
She loved her kids, she loved her husband.
I know her innocence.
But she's also charged now with his murder.
I never knew evil like this existed.
Welcome back. We are heading to New Jersey now for the Mansion murder trial of Paul Canero. Prosecutors allege that he carried out a brutal attack in 2018, killing his brother and sister-in-law, then stabbing his niece and nephew to death. They say he set the family's home on fire and then ignited his own house. Investigators claim to make it appear as if both brothers were attacked. The defense rested their case today without the defendant testifying, but his two daughters did testify. They took the stand. So what was the best evidence jurors took in today? Let's break it down. First up on the stand today was Katie Canero. She testified about the night of the fires during her testimony. This took place yesterday. This little clip we're going to play. Go ahead and take a listen to it.
Moving on to the morning of the 20th. What's the first thing you remember?
First thing I remember was my dad, he was like shaking me awake, and he was saying that the house was on fire and we needed to get out.
So from the time that you were exiting your house and you saw your dad going toward the garage to the time that you saw the garage door coming up and the light and the Porsche coming out, how much time had passed?
Under a minute.
At that time, did you ever see your dad holding a gas can?
No.
Did you ever see your dad trying to light any fires?
No.
Did your dad smell like gasoline?
No. And at that time, my dad started screaming and crying that my uncle's house was on fire. And he got a text from Ben saying that he needed to go.
And why were you trying to leave?
Because no one was answering me. Gary. I wanted to make sure they were okay.
Let's bring in our guest panel, Daryl Cohen, C.K. Hoffler, and David Gelman. David, I'm going to start with you this time. Listening to Katie on the stand, one of two daughters that testified, she's talking about the gas can. She didn't see her dad with any gas can. What do you think that says? Is that significant here? Was that a good point for defense counsel to get across? Because the prosecution is claiming that he's the one that set all these fires. He's the cold-blooded killer, the defendant.
Well, obviously, Paul Canero would not have a gas can and have his daughter seeing it, when waking her up. I think it was a good point, though, by the defense counsel. You have to do something like that. Look, I thought it humanized him a little bit, if you can humanize him. And you could see when Katie was testifying, he was also crying. He was getting emotional as well. Juries look at that. They pick up on that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, is that going to really matter? Because they didn't see Katie, she didn't see anything happening at her uncle's house. She didn't see the murders happen at all. So the evidence that was shown by the prosecutor, I really just think it's just too overwhelming, and I don't think they're going to be able to overcome it. But look, you got to go down swinging, and I think they're doing a good job doing it.
CK, let's bring you in on this.
Well, you do have to go down swinging, but they're not going down swinging. I think that this evidence is, while it's emotional, anyone's daughter testifying who's being accused of these heinous crimes, stabbing children to death and burning houses and all that. Okay, when the daughter's testifying, everybody's going to feel some kind of way. Not enough. The evidence is piled up. I agree with David on this. The evidence is piled up. He's not getting off. I just don't think that this effort, and of course we're in the defense's case now, is going to be sufficient. It's just not going to be.
Daryl?
One, he's going off to prison. Two, I think that her terminology, her testimony was important. But what do we know? We know that in the United States, in our system, you cannot hold it against a defendant who doesn't testify, but you cannot praise that defendant either. Juries want to hear from the person who's charged. They want to see in this case, his body language, his facial expressions, how he responds, not just to direct questions, but to questions from the DA's office. They didn't hear any of that. So what they're going to presume, and normally do presume, no testimony is bad testimony.
And can I just add one thing? This little tear situation where he was tearing up, of course you're going to tear up when your daughter's testifying. That is not persuasive.
No, you don't find it persuasive. All right, let's bring in this second piece of evidence. This was the other daughter, Marissa. She also took the stand and she testified about learning her aunt, uncle, and cousins were dead and how her father reacted to the news. Let's take a listen to that.
Did you learn what happened? Just without saying what was said, did you learn what had happened with your Uncle Keith and Jennifer and their family?
Yes.
And did you learn that they were deceased?
Yes.
Okay. And can you just describe that moment that you learned that and what your reaction was and what your dad's reaction was?
Don't object to relevance.
You can answer as it relates to your dad.
When they told us that everyone died, my dad was really upset and crying. He fell to the floor, and I was sitting across from him at that point. So I got up, and I was on the floor with him, just holding him. He was crying a lot, and my shoulder was wet. And then eventually they told me I had to leave the room as well. So I don't know what else happened.
Okay, Marissa was able to testify to her father's reaction there. CK, enough. She's really saying how upset he was about the situation. We heard from when the prosecution was doing its case saying, you know, he didn't seem that upset. He wasn't visibly upset. He was really quiet at the time. We have the daughter here talking about really how her dad was reacting, according to her testimony.
I mean, I think it's helpful, but it's not enough. It is helpful, again, just like with the other daughter testifying, when Katie testified, it humanizes him to a degree, but the weight of the evidence is not going to be diluted by this testimony. It's going to be expected that his children would say that. It's going to be expected that she's going to convey how her father collapsed and how he was really, really upset. We would expect him to be upset, but what's going on in his mind if he really did this is that he's got to perform magically, majestically, in order for him to make his story believable.
David, I see you shaking your head there and agreeing with CK. What's your take on her testimony?
I mean, she's exactly right. Look, he's got to be David Copperfield. Think about it. He has to perform in this act because he has to know that his daughters, everybody there, is going to be a witness to a potential murder or from beforehand. But at the end of the day, when the prosecutors are doing their closing arguments, it is going to be game over. They have so much evidence, so much overwhelming evidence. And then when you have two children who were brutally stabbed to death multiple times by their uncle, that jury, I don't care what his daughters say, the jury is going to convict them.
Darryl?
Well, I want to add something just a little bit to the side. I think that he was legitimately emotional and freaked out because now he realized what he just did. And as a result of that, he has ruined lives. So yes, the fact that he is emotional, I get that, and he should be, but I think he was emotional for the wrong reasons.
That's a good point, Darryl, because you could take it both ways. Emotional because this happened, emotional then the realization that, oh my God.
But not because he's innocent. Let's just be really clear.
Yeah.
Not because he's innocent. Okay.
Yeah, because he got caught.
Because he got caught.
Yeah, well, exactly.
How about that? And his children.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. All right, we're going to squeeze in a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to go next talking about what's taking place in South Carolina. We're going to break down the biggest true crime cases. Convicted killer Alex Murdaugh is back in court, taking his fight for a new trial to South Carolina's highest judges. That's next.
Indictment for murder, guilty. Indictment for murder, guilty.
Justice was done. It gave a voice to Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, who were brutally mowed down and murdered. We can't bring them back, but we can bring them justice.
And he may be taken away.
And welcome back. We are taking you beyond the gavel. Convicted killer and disgraced attorney Alex Murdaugh is taking his fight for a new trial to South Carolina's highest court this week. Murdaugh was found guilty in 2023 of murdering his wife Maggie and his son Paul at their family home. This was back in 2021. He was sentenced to life in prison and has continued to maintain his innocence. Let's take a listen now to what his defense said after he was sentenced.
What do you make about the judge's comments after the verdict that he agreed with the jurors?
Well, you know, I'm somebody that's prosecuted and defended a bunch of death penalty cases, and clearly you never do it in a circumstantial case. Because you're not 99 times out of 100, a jury's not going to sentence somebody to death without I saw him do it, he confessed, or, you know, great forensic evidence at the minimum. They had none of that here. And I think SWED needs to do some self-examination on the forensic processing. They did not. I mean, one of the things we complained about was that Maggie's phone would have had all her GPS data on it if they processed it within 5 days. And because they didn't, the GPS data got overridden. I mean, it was just one, which would have been helpful to Alec. It's fingerprints, footprints, and all kinds of forensic things that weren't done.
Can you expect an appeal anytime soon?
10 days we'll be filing an appeal.
The admission of all the financial crime evidence, and that was offered up, you know, as evidence of motive, that because he was confronted about one financial transaction involving attorney's fees by the chief accountant of the law firm that was being offered as motive for why he would go home and kill his wife and son, which we thought was illogical and ludicrous.
It was about character. It wasn't about motive. He always wanted to take the stand, but once that information was in, I mean, he had to take the stand to explain the kennel video, the lie, if you will. He had to, but he had no credibility. His credibility had been stripped away by the financial misdeeds.
How is Buster doing, and why did he choose not to speak at the sentencing?
We could have had Mother Teresa up there speaking on behalf of Alec at sentencing. I mean, he was getting a double life sentence. That was expected. I mean, this is Judge Newman. He's a very stringent punisher when it comes to crimes and sentences. I mean, that was never in dispute. And so for Buster to get up and speak on his dad's behalf would not have made a difference. And why do you want to put that kid through more trauma than anybody that we can imagine has ever been through?
They won this case the day the judge bought into letting them put every piece of, stealing from kids who lost their mother, from somebody with pancreatic cancer, somebody that's a paraplegic. I mean, all of that 2.5 weeks, by the time they got done with it, it didn't matter about final argument. It didn't matter about what we put up. They would never, ever, ever acquit him after that.
The South Carolina Supreme Court agreed to hear his appeal, which argues jurors heard improper evidence and that there was little physical proof tying him to the murders. The appeal also accuses former court clerk Becky Hill of improperly influencing jurors by pressuring them to reach a guilty verdict. Hill has denied those claims, but later pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice and perjury in a separate case. Oral arguments are scheduled for Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. The court will then decide whether he gets a new trial or if his conviction stands. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest panel, Daryl Cohen, C.K. Hoffler, and David Gelman. Daryl, I'm going to start with you. Will he get a new trial?
It's a definite maybe. I think the fact that the clerk was convicted on separate charges is very important and plays a major part in whether or not her influence, if any, on the jury convinced them, or in the thoughts of the Supreme Court, convinced the jury, or at least partially convinced them to find him guilty. I would not be surprised if he did or if he did not get a new trial. I feel like the Ford commercial. If you do, if you can, or if you can't, I don't know. But he is a bad guy. He's done everything wrong that he could have done wrong, and he is a disgrace, not just disgraced, but a disgrace.
CK, you can't have a fair trial when you have these allegations of the court official coming in and possibly tampering with the jury, possibly influencing even one. Maybe made that person change their mind, maybe made him think or her think he is guilty after he took the stand and testified. You can't have that. That impacts a person's right to a fair trial.
I think that that's probably the strongest argument they could make. But as it relates to all the evidence and the jury weighing and looking at it, he took the stand. So the jury looked at the evidence, looked at him, made a determination, and found him guilty, and more guilty. I think that the clerk, what she did or didn't do, that was probably improper on some level, but I don't think it would have impacted the outcome. So if he is granted a new trial, I think the outcome will be the same or more severe, if at all possible.
David, what do you think?
He's not getting a new trial. Well, let's just be honest here. He is not getting a new trial. There's a reason for this. Number one, the evidence is pretty damn clear. Now, look, it's circumstantial, yes, but how many times are you going to get an actual evidence showing an individual shooting and killing an individual? Not very often. So, of course, it's circumstantial evidence, and the defense attorneys, they know that, but they had to posture to the press. But number two, this Miss Hill, look, what she did improper at most, but she has denied that she did this. There's been an investigation. Nothing's really come of it. He is not going to get a new trial. Now, is he appealing this to get one? Obviously he is. And why is he doing it? Because he has nothing to lose. What's going to happen if they say no? Okay, he's in the same spot as he started at. So I'd do the same thing if I was him in his shoes. But at the end of the day, the Supreme Court, I guarantee you, they're going to look all over this. They're going to see it, and they're going to say, Alex Murdaugh, see it in the next life.
David, you know that Becky Hill, she was never charged with jury tampering. If she would have been, that definitely would have bolstered his appeal, I think.
100%, Kelly, 100%, but she wasn't. So, in my opinion, they did their investigation. The prosecutor's office did it. They found nothing. And so, at the end of the day, he's not going to get one. But if she had something, I agree. Yeah, there would probably be a much better case for him to get a new trial. But it's not going to happen.
Daryl?
He may or may not get a new trial, but David, she wasn't convicted of what she was convicted of because she was a good person. She is now a convicted felon, and she, according to some of the evidence, was some sort of an influence on the jury. Now, I'll say this, if he gets a new trial, I would suspect that the next case would be more streamlined, and I believe the verdict would be exactly the same.
Yeah, CK, definitely.
Or worse. Or worse, if it could be worse. He's going down either way. This little reprieve and trying to find the clerk who did this and did that. Yes, she acted improperly, but but let's talk about his conduct, his misconduct. He took the stand, and so the jurors convicted him as well they should have, because the evidence pointed to his guilt 100 times over.
Daryl, so this is going to be oral arguments tomorrow. Each side is going to get their say, making their arguments to the justices. Murdaugh, he's not going to be there. He won't be there for this. What do you think the prosecutors their strongest argument will be? Well, he received a fair trial.
He received a fair trial. The jury heard all of the evidence. In fact, the jury heard from him as he testified under oath. And as a result of that, the jury convicted him. Now, they're going to have to, in my view, address the former clerk. And they may address it and say, she may have said something, she shouldn't have said anything, but it made no difference.
Yeah, definitely going to downplay it.
Yeah, but they've got to mention it, because if they don't, it's the elephant in the room that everybody says, what about that? So I think he will not get a new trial, but if he does, I'm not concerned.
CK, how would you handle that? How would you handle that? Downplaying what she may or may have not have done.
I would go straight with it, and I would look at the appellate court, and I would say, look, we know this is the elephant in the room. And I would begin by dismantling how that could have had any impact, really, ultimately on the jury and on the final outcome. But what was more persuasive was his own testimony and the evidence. And that's what they ruled on. Should she have done that? No. If it happened, and what happened, we'll never know. I would not try to downplay it too much. I would confront it head on and let them know we are not afraid of this. Even if she did that, the outcome would have been the same, because the jurors sat and they looked at the evidence and they made a determination. And the most compelling evidence was probably his testimony.
Why don't we play this little clip from Becky?
There's just no credibility.
No credibility. Let's play this little clip. I believe we have something from Becky Hill here, which she spoke sometime. Let's play it.
And so, after much reflection, I have decided that it is best not to run again for re-election. I will now be able to focus on being a wife, a mother, and grandmother to my 2 grandboys, and will be spending time with the people who mean the most to me.
Well, okay. Well, that was no surprise. She should not run. That would be a huge mistake.
I wonder why she didn't run. because she was about to be convicted. But let me say, I disagree with CK a little bit.
Let's hear it, Daryl.
I think that less is more. I would address her alleged communication with the jury slightly and move on. The more you bring out, the more
I wasn't saying you bring out everything. I would just say address it head on. Don't try to be cute about it. Just address it And yes, move on. I wasn't saying they should have a diatribe and evidence and all this. No. But I'm saying don't go around the mulberry bush.
All they
Just
gotta
do
do
it.
is just talk about it real quick, and then talk about the evidence, talk about the credibility and the lack thereof. That's all they got to do, and it's a winning argument. They're going to win. They don't have to go over themselves to do this. This is not very difficult, people.
Yeah, so, David,
unless they try to hide it.
Unless they try to hide it.
And act like it didn't happen.
That would be
or
dumber
that may not have
than,
happened.
that would be dumber than dumb. It's dumb and dumber, and this is dumbest.
Dumbest.
Yeah, dumbest.
I agree.
All right, we need to take a break.
Dumber than Murdaugh.
Coming up, hot takes, cold facts. Our panel gives the most outlandish opinions on today's biggest cases. We will be right back.
Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
17-year-old accused of murdering her mother and her stepfather.
Our court of opinion experts have strong takes on all trials we bring you here on Court TV. Now we want to get their hot takes on the big legal headlines developing today. Here are the cold, hard facts for our first headline. Minnesota governor candidate Jeff Johnson is suspending his campaign after the death of his daughter. 22-year-old Haley Marie Tobler was found fatally stabbed inside her apartment over the weekend. Police say her husband, 23-year-old Dylan Tobler, was also found at the scene, and he had self-inflicted stab wounds and is believed to be responsible for her death. It is not yet clear if charges have been filed. Johnson, a former St. Cloud city councilman seeking the Republican nomination for governor, announced that he is stepping away from the race as his family grieves. Let's bring in our guest panel, Daryl Cohen, C.K. Hoffler, and David Gelman. C.K., I'll start with you. Very tragic news for his family.
Absolutely, very tragic. And my heart does go out to him, to his family, because that is a severe tragedy. This is all political. I mean, I think it's wise of him to step down because he's dealing with a family tragedy that we can't really relate to other than if you're in that position. So I definitely understand that, but I also want to underscore there's a strong political dynamic to this that can't be understated.
Daryl, what's your take on this?
I disagree. Step by step, he has to take one step at a time. If your family, any member of your family has been murdered, how do you go on from minute to minute? So I think that him stepping down is saying, I don't have the intentional fortitude. I don't have the strength to continue on with a campaign. I just can't do it. That's what I would think.
It's just devastating news for that family. David, what's your take on this? I mean, you're running for governor of the state. You have a strong campaign going, and then such tragedy takes place.
Look, I don't want to say this was an easy exit ramp for him, but he was pretty behind in the polls from what I saw. He was like number 3 or 4. Again, I'm not saying this is the best thing that happened because this is a terrible situation that did happen. But if there was ever a way to exit, why not take it like this? And look, maybe he'll be a good governor candidate for the next round after this. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe take some time. David, thanks. Here's our second headline. The stepbrother of a Florida teen found dead on a cruise ship appeared in court Friday as the investigation into her killing continues. The 16-year-old, identified only as TH, was seen at the federal courthouse in Miami for sealed juvenile proceedings. The exact charges, they remain unknown. Anna Kepner was found dead aboard the Carnival Horizon in November. Her death was ruled a homicide by asphyxia, with court records stating that she was found under a bed in the cabin that she shared with her stepbrother as well as her younger brother. Court filings show the FBI has identified the stepbrother as the sole suspect. All right, Daryl, let's start with you. This seems like it's taking a long time to get things going here.
Kelly, I disagree. I think it's taking longer than a long time. This happened in November. We're now in February, November of 25, February of 26. In my view, they've got the cameras, they've got the evidence, and he could have been charged, and in my view, should have been charged much sooner. And for all we know, he has been charged. This is federal, not state, because it was on the open seas. So the FBI took over. Let's just see what happens. But I think we're finally going to see some movement.
Okay.
This is tragic. I mean, there aren't going to be any winners here. You have terrible tragedy, young woman who died. I think that whether it's taking too long or not, I think that's not the issue. You've got to be sure when it comes to young people and what you're going to do. And he's a young person. And if you think about it, something must have happened. And whatever happened, there was a younger sibling who was in the room. And so this is a tragedy beyond tragedy. And so I just think they need to take the appropriate time. So I disagree with you about the time thing.
It's okay, you have a right to be wrong.
I mean, no, I'm right.
David,
what is this?
David, what's your take?
You agree, don't you, David?
This is taking way too long. They know who did it. There's cameras all over the place in these cruise ships. The FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Florida, I can guarantee you they know. The only reason this is taking so long is because he's a juvenile and he's not in custody. If he was in custody by now, we would have already had this, and this would have already wrapped up. But because he isn't, that's what is, taking so long. But I hope now we can get this going a little bit.
Yeah, let's get this one behind us. Here's our last headline. Attorneys for a former police officer accused of threatening fellow officers have filed a motion asking a judge to recuse herself from the case. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is charged with a single count of assault with a dangerous weapon after allegedly pointing a gun at a colleague. Now, she said she was suffering from postpartum depression and raised the gun to hurt herself and not to threaten anyone else. Fitzsimmons' defense questions why Judge Kathleen McCarthy Newman has assigned herself to the case, speculating on whether there is a familiar relationship with the alleged victim, given the shared last name of McCarthy. Okay, CK, start with this one.
First of all, I want to underscore that postpartum depression is real. So if that is a defense, if that's indeed what happened. But it's easy to find out whether there's a familiar relationship, whether the judge was related. You see, that situation makes no sense to me.
It does seem strange that, they're saying, or from the reports we're reading, the judge has taken an interest in this one and why this is happening. I have no idea, but it's an interesting one to follow. Daryl, what is your opinion on this?
I think it's interesting to follow. Probably the judge should not be recused, but likely she will recuse herself because there's no reason for her to keep the case. If there's any smidgen of impropriety, let the case go on, and if she's convicted, it'll happen.
Yeah, but what impropriety? I don't see the impropriety. Having the same last name, if you're not related, what's the impropriety?
I agree, but just in case. Less is more.
Yeah, just in case. I mean, a lot of people can have the same last name.
Yeah, they can.
But if there is some relationship, they could find out, and then, yes, she should recuse herself.
I think she ought to recuse herself regardless, just because why have adverse publicity? And there will always be those questions. Why, especially if there's a conviction, why didn't you recuse yourself? She should have another piece for appeal.
David, what's your take on this one?
I'm with Daryl on this one. Look, judges don't want to work as it is. So if I was the judge, okay, recuse myself. Great. Let another judge take it. There's plenty of other judges in this building. Look, if there's any type of impropriety, even if there really isn't, but there's an appearance of it, you have to do that. You have to recuse yourself. And in this situation, look, there could be an appeal if it doesn't happen. So I think that she should appeal, or she should recuse herself and go on her separate way.
Well, see, I got to disagree. Appearance of impropriety, it happens all the time. If that were the case, then judges would all have to recuse themselves of cases, especially in a small community.
Au contraire.
You don't think so, Darren?
No, this one, there's a little more publicity on this one.
There seems to be something to this one.
Maybe there's something I'm missing. But based on what we know now, if there's something I'm missing, I will agree with the gentleman. But based on the evidence that we know and the information that we have now, there's no reason for her to recuse herself.
Calling us gentleman was very kind, and we appreciate it. But having said that, just go ahead and recuse yourself, because why continue a problem that doesn't need to exist?
Good point. We're going to have to leave it there. Yeah. Thank you so much for connecting with us this hour. I'm Kelly Craft, in for Julia Janae. Thank you so much to our lovely panel tonight. We're going to remind you that we all have opinions. They should be rooted in the facts, and we should strive to respect the other's opinion, even when we don't agree. Up next, Someone They Knew with Tampering Hall.